Hey, it's Amaya K. Welcome back to AMaYa's Take. And today's podcast is going to be about, drumroll please, singleness. Okay, it's going to be about that. And today, it's not just going to be me. Okay, let me get together. Me giving my take. I have a special friend on here. She's beautiful, talented, amazing, just everything. She's a great person, and she's an awesome woman of God. Please give it up for Natalie.
You're so nice. Hi.
We talked about some great things because we are
in the future.
filming this. Yeah, we're in the future. So I think you guys are gonna love it and like it, and if not, don't comment anything rude. But anyways, you're gonna like it. But stay tuned for this video, and let's hop into the verse of the day. So today I'm here with Natalie. She is my friend, and we go to the same church.
Yes, shout out to NOLA Church.
That's where we're actually filming. So thank you to NOLA Church for allowing us to film in here. And so a brief introduction on who Natalie is, if you would like to tell the people.
Oh my gosh. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. Shout out to Kansas. I moved here last July. I'm an athletic trainer at a university just about an hour away from New Orleans. And the Lord opened the door for me to come to church here. So I'm an athletic trainer. I work with women's basketball, men's tennis. That's my day job, but I spend a lot of my time, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you, in New Orleans. There's not, anything crazy.
Nothing crazy to say.
That's the gist.
That's just who Natalie is. And how we met is through church, and I came here in September of last year.
We met at a girls' night.
Yeah, met at a girls' night. And through going to church here, I met her, and we've just had this really great start to a great friendship. And so I'm just thankful for Natalie. I'm thankful for God placing Natalie into my life. She's so nice. Shout out to Big God out there. So next, I'm gonna ask you. Next we're just gonna get into this. Okay, so the verse of the day today is, I wish that all were as I am myself am, but each has his own gift from God, one of a kind and one of another. To the unmarried and the widows I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am. And that is verse 1 Corinthians 7:7 in the English Standard Version. And the reason why I feel like I was led to choose this is because we're both single. Hey. And I feel like many of you guys out there might be single, and I feel like in today's world we're not really content with being single. And I know with me, just speaking for myself, it's been kind of hard to be content in that. So that's why I felt like I was led to choose that. We're using her phone for the notes. So that's the verse of the day. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the verse of the day?
I love 1 Corinthians 7. One of my favorite things about it is it's Paul. Paul, one thing he says, I forgot which verse it is, but he says, something along the lines of, this is a commendation, not a command. Basically, he comes from the stance of being so content in seeing the gift of his singleness, for what it is, that he is literally this is not, you don't have to be single, but because of what I've experienced, I encourage you to be single. It's coming from, the overflow of his contentness. So, shout out to 1 Corinthians 7. I love that whole section, and I encourage y'all to read it. Just made me think of that.
Okay, well, I'm glad. So, after the verse today, we're going to get into our takes on singleness, and I'm going to ask Natalie a few questions, and I'm going to answer them if I can as well. So, stay tuned for the rest of the video. Okay, so the next question I have is, what is one word you would use to describe your relationship with singleness?
Currently, I would use the word focus.
Focus. Why? How so?
I've let a lot of distractions come in the way in the past. Like, I mean, you can name anything can obviously be a distraction from the Lord, but I, truly am out of place in my walk with Jesus where He's calling me to deeper intimacy with Him. And because of that, if any related to singleness man is going to be a distraction, then I have no interest. So I know that a man of God in the Lord's timing is not going to be a distraction. So I think right now I'm in a season where I don't necessarily think that it's time, just because of all things that the Lord is doing right now in my life. So I just really feel a call and a push to be completely focused on that one thing and not let every time distractions come up, I just gotta go, okay, recognize it, give it up. Recognize it, give it up. So that'd be my word. What about you, Amaya? What's your word?
Well, before I answer the question, I had a secondary question.
Yes.
What would you say is a distraction about relationships? Because you use that word a lot, and so just to clarify with everybody else that's listening, and myself, because I want to know too.
Yeah. It's a deep question, so I'm trying to think how deep I want to go with answering it.
Or how do you know if something is a distraction for you? Better understand that.
If I have to look away from my relationship with Jesus, if I notice I'm getting off track from seeking the Lord, it's a distraction. It's honestly as simple as that. I would try to make it elsewhere, but I know a lot of women, including myself, can be obsessive when they're interested in a man or a man is interested in them, and that's been something I've realized in the past that I would obsess. I would not stop thinking about it, and that, keeps me from everything important in my life, and it's okay and good and beautiful to be attracted to someone or to desire marriage. It's not a bad thing. I definitely desire marriage, but the minute that trying to think of the right word. Yeah, it's really the minute I have to look away from Jesus, it's a distraction. I think that's the best way. And I don't know how to fully explain that without it's something you just have to experience. But as you continue to seek the Lord and as you continue to be in your word, it becomes more and more easy to realize when you are getting off track.
So if it's taking you, in which, what I think of it as, if it's taking you to a place to where that's your main focus and that's what drives you. Yeah. Then
anything can be an idol.
Yeah, anything.
It doesn't have to be a bad man for it to be an idol. No. Sorry.
I
was attracted to a lot of bad men, but I recently had I've had to give over relationships that are not meant to be because of the season I'm in. Because while it wasn't a bad person, it wasn't the right time.
Yeah. It could be the right person but the wrong timing. It's all about timing and where people are.
And I had to admit that where I was and where I was at with my walk with the Lord, with my flesh, I had to admit to myself that I would get carried away.
And that's a big thing to do. You have to be real honest with yourself.
Brutally honest.
You have to get real with yourself.
And that's really where transformation comes, is when you're brutally honest with yourself and Jesus, because He can't heal what you're hiding.
Literally, I had wrote that in a note, just different. And I had wrote that exact same thing is if you're hiding, then you can't heal anything because you're not speaking on it, or you're not letting it be known. But to answer the question, now I will answer the question because I had that question. I would say one word to use to describe singleness for me. I can say right now, in this moment, the first word that came to mind when I was writing this down was intentional. Not more so me intentionally choosing to be single, but just more so intentionally intentionally choosing who I give my time to, the kind of people that I give my time to. That's what I'm being more so intentional about. So that's what I would say. And I agree with everything that you said about being distracted, obsessive, because obsessive is not loving a person. That's
because if it's not from the Lord, it's also going to be a distraction to the other person.
Yeah.
Like, we can't be out here trying to save people either. That's the Lord's job. So let me not try and be with someone who needs saved, because it's going to bring us both down.
Hold on. We're using our phone for notes. So the next thing I would say, do you think as a society, or just in a Christian culture, like romantic relationships are like the main focus, or they're really popular now, especially? So I'm gonna like your input on that.
I've gone to 4 different churches now throughout my whole life. And I've definitely been in communities and circles of women before, specifically where it was like the main focus. Especially back in Wichita, there's an expectation that you get married when you're like 20 and have kids by the time you're 22. I personally never really wanted that. I was always like, no, I'm too cool. Like, yeah. Anyways,
before we get on a tangent.
But I've definitely been in circles where it's been very unhealthy and obsessive, and then I've been in circles, like, I really think now at our church, where it's very healthy. Like, there are women that desire to be married and are very open about that, but it's not something we're talking about on and on and on. So I think in terms of Christian culture, I've definitely been around both. But this is the healthiest community I've ever been a part of, and getting to see it done in a healthy way has been very encouraging. Where it's talked about and there's room for it, but we're not letting it overshadow what really matters right now.
Yeah.
And I think in the world, I honestly see a lot more of hookup culture and career-oriented mindsets. Like, for a long time, I was not the girl who wanted to be married and settle down and do all that. Like, I was the girl who cared about my career. I didn't really think about getting married. I didn't really want kids for a long time, which was out of fear. But the more I've grown up and the more I've gotten close to the Lord, and this isn't everyone's story, but for me, I realized, like, oh, I actually do desire this. It was me kind of hiding it under the mask of what would look good to culture and what also would keep me from having to deal with the vulnerability of emotions that come with desiring marriage and not having it yet. So I feel like there's 2 very different realms, but at the same time, back in Kansas, good old Midwest culture, I also did experience, even with friends who weren't walking with Jesus, that desire to get married young. So I see both ends of the spectrum, depending on where you are.
Do you think that like marriage is seen as like a valuable thing, and that's why people want it so bad, or they just want to be valued by other people, by like outside stuff? Because I've even just like seen in like my own life with people that I'm cool with, or just in life itself, I've just seen to where like if you're in a relationship, people seem to value you more and seem to be like, oh, she's in a relationship, oh, she's married, or like, you know, he's married, or like, oh, like, you know, it's this thing where you almost have more value put on you to have that, and it shows some type of I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it just shows some type of like, you're like, you know, a part of a different class of people because you were able to have a relationship or obtain one.
Yeah, I can't speak for other people, so I definitely can understand, and I definitely feel like I've had conversation with people I've been close to who feel that way. I personally, I have 2 parents who are happily married. They're going on like 33 years, I think, which is amazing. Praise the Lord. But my parents have been very open with us about like conflicts they've had. So I've seen, especially with parenting, them walk through a lot of things and have to figure it out. Yeah. So I think I've been given a very realistic view of the commitment of marriage in some ways. And I think because of that, I personally never really saw it as like this, I don't know, elevation, because I was more fearful of it, because I saw the responsibility. I saw how it could also hurt someone, like, because it is two human people coming together. So I guess I don't feel like I can fully speak on that, but yeah, I definitely understand where that mindset comes from, especially in the church, like when people start talking and because I mean comparison is the thief of joy. So I can't sit here and say that I've never looked at a Christian couple and been like, wow, like I really want that, because I do, like but we can't look at that and think that everything's fine behind the scenes, because it's not, like, because we're humans, and just like anything we deal with in singleness, anything we deal with in our relationships with people in general, like there's going to be conflict, and if it is a Christ-like friendship, relationship, whatever, it will sanctify and it will challenge you. So I think I've had to definitely check myself many times, whether it's with a marriage relationship or if it's even just like seeing someone walk out their faith with the Lord and not forget that there are things happening behind the scenes.
And so that's how you would like battle comparison with, like, you know, looking at like other people and what they have and what it may not always be what you think it is. Because there's this TikTok where this person says that comparison is the devaluing of yourself. Would you agree or disagree with that, in a way in which if you're comparing what you lack or what you don't have in that way to somebody else's abundance, quote unquote, do you agree with that statement or not?
Yeah, I can understand that. I think, again, distraction, like, it's just us focusing on ourselves, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just us being self-centered. And I know that sounds rough, but like, when we get the focus on ourselves, we stress ourselves out. Like, and like pride can look like too high or too low of self-esteem.
Yeah.
So I think like anytime that we're focusing too much on ourselves, we're probably going to err on either side. I have struggled with vanity in the past, so I fight it on the other side, but it also came from focusing too much on myself, and it never did me any good. Like, it came from a place of insecurity, because I felt like I had to puff myself up to feel okay. Like, so I can understand what that person was trying to say.
Was trying to say with the whole
devaluing, because I feel like it is a fixation on other people, but it's fixating on yourself, and oh, well, I lack this, or I don't have this, when who says they do, really? Yeah. Who says they do have that thing?
I mean, nobody really has it all together, and
we all need Jesus.
They have it. It's not always going to be sweet, and it's not always going to be a sour thing. It's like right in the middle, and I think especially in this generation, we're so fixated on like perfection, and so fixated on like having what it looks like all together, but not really having it spiritually together, and having things within inside us, and we kind of use a relationship or use trying to be like, I just want to be with somebody as almost a crutch to not have to deal with yourself, because it's a lot easier to be like, oh, I'll be in this relationship and not worry about my problems. But what people don't understand is, like, if you get in a relationship, your problems are just going to be magnified, because a relationship, it magnifies whoever you are and vice versa for that person. And so if you're a little messed up, like we all are on the inside, we're just all works in progress. But if you are not focusing on trying to like better yourself daily and grow, then that's going to come out in a relationship, and it could sour a relationship, either friends or in, like, you know, a romantic relationship. So it goes both ways. I think just being able to work on yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, it'll better any relationship that you're in, or any type of connection that you have all around. Okay. So I have a question about feeling lonely, and I know being a single at times it can feel like, oh, I'm by myself, but how do you combat that? How do you combat feeling lonely in that moment? Do you agree or disagree with the statement, I want a significant other to not be alone? That's where that question came from.
Let me read this real fast before I go because
We're
I
doing
wrote
it.
down some notes.
Getting it together, you guys. Wow. It's been a minute since I've done a podcast, so bear with us. Bear with me.
All right. I disagree. And I put a smiley face when I was thinking about this question because it's not always been that way. The way I used to word it was, I want companionship, which is not a bad thing, but I would notice myself longing for this companionship when I was lonely, when I was out of touch with community, when I was out of intimacy with the Lord. And I think when you say those type of statements, it's important to look at where you're at and how you're feeling when you say it, because the root is very important. And I said, I still have my moments and days, but when you really allow the Lord to fulfill you, which comes from taking the next step in your walk, whatever it is, we're not meant to be stagnant with the Lord. He wants to continually do a new thing. So wherever that is, stepping in and leading into that, when we really allow the Lord to fulfill us, my reason for desiring marriage has completely changed. I've told Amaya I didn't desire a godly marriage until September of last year. I've been in the church my whole life, but I had a relationship. Like I said, I had a cute little month-long relationship. We talked for 9 months, so it was like a long time thing, but there was a lot of social pressure in my circle around it. You got it?
I think it's 3 ones, but
there was a lot of social pressure around that relationship. And I basically just realized that he was not what I was looking for. He loved the Lord, and I would try and tell people, I know he loves Jesus, I just don't know if this is I just don't know if I'm really interested. And people were just like, oh, he's great. They wouldn't, I just didn't feel very heard. It was a whole thing. We don't need to get into it too much, but basically I broke up with him after a month. And after that, it looked like everything I thought it was supposed to look like. He loved Jesus, my parents loved him, whatever, but it didn't work. And I was so confused and frustrated at the time. I later realized some things about why it didn't work, just with personality and where we were both at in our walk. But my response was, okay, well, that didn't work. I want the opposite. So I started entertaining men of the world. I started to really long for something. It was a misplaced longing. I started to long for attention and validation elsewhere, because what I thought worked didn't work. And I really just, in a lot of ways, started to step outside of the Word of God, step outside of what I always knew, to figure it out for myself. I tried to make the Bible fit what I wanted it to say, so I could get validation from the world. I could get the validation from men that I longed for. And this is a rabbit trail, but I say all that to say, I didn't desire a godly marriage. A piece of me did. A piece of me desired a godly marriage. But because I didn't believe or understand that I could have that, I felt stuck in this in-between. So I wasn't really dating. I was talking to guys, but I wasn't really dating. So when I moved here, the Lord transformed my life. Praise God. I got baptized in the Winnie the Pooh shirt, so God is good.
Special shirt.
But the Lord really transformed my life, and the more I got to know Jesus, the more I was in a community that was healthy, my desires naturally started to change. And when I stopped, compromising things because of an insecurity, and started to just fix my eyes on what mattered, even though it was uncomfortable, those desires started to naturally change. So I say all that to say that, I definitely desired a relationship because I was lonely for years. And again, I still have my moments where I long for companionship because I'm human, and that's okay. But I think the Lord has really began to uproot that bad fleshly desire out and replace it with something that's good. So praise God, because it really had to be Him. It was not me.
Because I agree with what you said about feeling like you wanted a relationship at that time to just fill a void, to feel being lonely. And I talked about this in one of my other podcasts. Go check it out, about relationships. But that person there said there's a difference between being alone and single and feeling lonely, and that really hit home, because I'm like, you don't have to be lonely to be single. It shouldn't be a lonely thing. And I think the more you think about what you don't have, which I used to be very negative Nancy, but the more you think about what you lack, quote unquote, and what you want so much, it starts to like poison the well of good things that you have in your life, and it takes away from it, and then you're not able to really enjoy what you do have and actually learn from these, like, friendships and relationships that you have now, because they all play a role within each other. I think in order to be a good quote unquote girlfriend, or to be a quote unquote good boyfriend, you have to know how to have good friendships and good relationships, period. So like, if you can't have that and hold that and be happy in that, then you're always going to find a problem with somebody else in a relationship, and you're always going to be single. If you are wanting to not be single anymore, I think the best thing a person can do is to just enjoy the space that they're in. And I'm talking to myself too, because I am guilty of being like, I wish I had this, but it's like my life is so full now with almost like friends and family. So I mean, I don't think it takes away from that, and it shouldn't take away from that. And I feel like a relationship, it should add to you and not be the thing that you're like, I couldn't live without it. Because at some point, like, you're gonna have to be able to live without people, and live without that one person. That's too much pressure to put on one person, and that can even spoil a relationship when you're just dumping all that onto one person, and when you feel like you need them. It shouldn't be a need. I feel like it should be, I want to be in a relationship with you. And I feel like a healthy relationship, it mirrors our relationship with God. And I feel like if you
Christ in the church,
it mirrors that in a way to where, like, we need God, but I think it's better to want than to be like, I need it, but it's like
we have to choose Him at the end of the day.
Exactly.
We have a choice.
I feel like it should be a healthy balance, especially in relationships, because you don't need people. You should want to be around people and be in relationship with people. Like, you shouldn't need them to that extent that like you're saying need, but but yeah, if that's and if you are honest with yourself, are you ready for a relationship? I know you kind of touched on that in an earlier question, but if you could reiterate.
2 answers.
Dose.
I don't know why I said it like that. Dose. So a little bit back to what I was saying about where I've been the last 2 to 3 years of my life with dating and singleness. I didn't have peace, and I kept myself single for a really long time because as much as I knew that deep down I desired a godly marriage, I knew that where I was at, I was walking the line, between the world and Jesus for a very long time. So I knew deep down that I couldn't contribute to a godly marriage in the way it's supposed to be. So I knew that I couldn't have that yet. But I also knew that if I truly, completely, fully engaged in the worldly relationships, the worldly men that I was around, that it would hurt me. So I wasn't fully engaged in that, and I was in this weird limbo for a very long time. I kept myself single because my flesh wanted a worldly relationship, the worldly culture, and everything that comes with it. But I knew deep down in my soul longed for something else. So I kept myself in this weird in between for a long time because I knew that I wasn't the person that I needed to be. Not in terms of, because I believed a lie for a long time that, oh, like, I have to be perfect before I'm in a relationship. That's so silly because, like, everyone would be single. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's something where it's two imperfect people coming together. But at the same time, there are things that I knew that I needed to lay down before I was in a relationship, and I knew that I needed to really know the Lord for real and be surrendered before I was not surrendered. So the Lord really wrecked me and changed my life when I moved here in so many ways, and praise God, that's a huge part of my testimony. And through that, I really have peace now that I'm actually following the Lord. And that's been a really amazing shift. But as I use the word focus, this season is not the time. The Lord's doing a lot of refining. The Lord's doing amazing things at our church right now. And I think all of us are going through a lot of refining right now. I don't know about you, but it's been happening very rapidly as I've made myself available to God in a new way. Not in a religious sense, but truly just being like, okay, Lord, whatever you want to do, like laying it down. That's been a big shift for me. So because of that, I have peace in knowing that now is not the time. Not necessarily because I'm good or bad or whatever, but that could change very fast. I don't know. I have no clue. Like, I know that when it's the right time, I'm going to have peace about it. So, and again, it's not going to be a distraction. So, I didn't really answer the question, but yeah, that's my roundabout answer.
So yes or no?
I gave the 7 paragraphs for a yes or no question. You're welcome.
Thank you. Which, that's great for a podcast because we love to talk.
Yes.
So to answer
one thing about Amaya and I, we love to talk.
That's why, I have a podcast. That's why I invited her on, because it's gonna be good. It's gonna be very talkative. To answer the question, to answer my own question, I think right now, just by the way it looks, I have a lot that I'm doing right now. So no, I don't. I don't think I have time to invest in another person. Not necessarily. I feel like no, I don't have the time to invest. But I feel like if God came down, or if He told me something, and He was like, "Hey, I would like you to be in a relationship." If He came down and He told me that,
Maya, it's time.
Yeah, which that's not how it happens. But if He allowed me to know that, like, it would be okay to be in a relationship. I'm not looking. That's one thing. I'm not looking for a relationship. I think that's really important because I used to be searching high and searching low. But right now I'm not looking. But if the opportunity presents itself and it's a man of God and this person fits those, I don't want to say like boxes, but if that person checks those boxes for me, I don't think I would turn it away. That's just my honest answer. I don't think I would turn it away. But I feel like right now, me seeking it out, no, I'm not doing. So am I ready? I feel like, just like her answer, I feel like I will know when the time is right. And right now, today, I'm not in a relationship, so the time ain't right. That's what I'm going off on, period. So if you're watching, listening, which I know you are, comment, like, subscribe. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. But anyways, if you're watching this, I feel like you should know, like, your time will come, hopefully, but it will come, and you just have to prepare yourself in the time, and God will prepare you, and so that's what I'm going to say, because I keep rambling. I don't want to ramble too much, because I'm good at that. So the next question I have is, we kind of talked about this, but do you think the need and want for attention can fuel a person's desire to be in a relationship? I know we touched on this a little bit.
Yeah. For me, how do you tell me? For me, I won't spill too much tea, but
keep your tea in your cup, okay?
I didn't seek out a relationship when I longed for attention. I would entertain men. I would flirt with men. I was a big flirt. That's just, I've always naturally been very bold. I've asked a guy to a wedding, actually. It was in March.
No, I'm kidding.
It was in March of 2020. So COVID happened and it got postponed to August 2020. And then like we weren't that close, and I told him, and he basically ended the paragraph with "sorry, fam." So I say that he fam zoned me, which is okay. That was a very long time ago. He's happily married, love them both. But what was I talking about?
Attention and the desire for relationships.
Yeah. So like, I think for me, well, why did I even bring that up?
I wish I was in your head too.
Dang. Oh, I'm naturally very bold and assertive, so I would try and take matters in my own hands all the time. I literally had a guy friend tell me over the phone, he went, "Natalie, I think you need to let a guy ask you out." And I was like, I think you're right. Because I was the shoot your shot girl, but it was out of a place of control.
Mm-hmm.
It was me, being like, well, the Lord isn't giving me this, so let me take matters in my own hands.
Yeah.
And I would do it to get what I wanted, and then if it was no longer what I wanted, I would just peace out and reject him. Like, or being real specific, just because there may be someone else out there that's dealt with this, but I would keep guy friends around who I knew liked me or who I found attractive. And there may have been some right intention in there, because I do just love people and love having friends, but I would most definitely keep guy friends around so that I could get attention from them.
Yeah, that's
without being in a relationship. So I didn't do it in a sense of being in a relationship, because I've always felt like being in a committed relationship, it's foreign to me if I'm completely honest, so that felt like too much. But I would just give little pieces of myself to men to get little pieces back, so I could get what I wanted while staying comfortable and safe.
Get that fix.
Yes, so absolutely, but I don't think it just applies to a relationship. I think it also applies to a lot of different things. We can really trick ourselves into thinking we're innocent when we really are just trying to fulfill an insecurity in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's not to shame someone or put someone down or even shame me. Like, in some ways, it came from a place of hurt. It came from a place of deep insecurity that I was never going to be with a man who I liked and who liked me. And that comes partially from my last relationship. That comes from not having attention in high school from men, or boys in high school.
Boys.
But like, no guy friendship, no talking phase, none of that ever did anything for me, because my well would still run dry. Like, I would still always end up needing more. And it really came from actually knowing who created me and letting him define who I am, that I've been fulfilled. Truly for the first time in my adult life. So, praise the Lord. Like, really, it's not gonna happen those places. It's not. But we also gotta, like we said earlier, be brutally honest with ourselves about where we're at, because we can keep ourselves in bondage as long as we want. Yeah. Thinking we're innocent. I'm talking to myself, so.
Yeah, all this, we're not talking to you, but if you're listening, you just hear.
Oh, we might.
We might be talking to you. We might be talking to you. I definitely agree with what you said about attention and seeking out, because I think more so from when, for me, in the seeking out attention, it was more so because I felt like my friends at the time, they were getting it more than I was.
Yeah.
And I never used to really want it until I got into college, when I first started going to college, and I had friends, and they were always talking about their, their guys that they were talking to, or guys that would come up to them and be interested in them, and I always felt like, don't nobody come up to me, I used to be like, well, I must be invisible, or, and I used to feel like, oh, I want to be included in the conversation, and so that part came from me of being like, okay, I want to start seeking that out and searching for that, so I can be included in the conversation, not so much to have a relationship or anything like that, because I was trying to be with somebody. No, that wasn't the case. Now that I look back at the time, it was just to be included and to not feel ostracized and not be alone. And I think that goes back to not be alone. Like, I think it really comes down to, and I think it really comes down to that, about being alone and in that sense, and just having a desire and want to fit in can really lead you down some roads that you don't want to go down. And also I thought about this, but I think I lost the thought, but it was pretty good. Maybe I might get that later. But
bonus podcast at the end.
stay tuned. And the next question I have is, do you think you need to trust God first before getting into a relationship?
I feel like we answered that.
I know, but just for the people who didn't hear it.
Since you weren't listening, I'm just kidding. Like, I keep saying the word intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy with the Lord has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
Trust, rely, obey. And I say that because, like, like I've talked a little bit about, like, my life has changed this year as I have allowed myself to become available to the Lord. Not as I've, because I attended church more, or because I read the Bible and shut off my brain and just studied it more, or because I sang the right worship songs, but because I actually started to realize that we are created to know our Maker. That's how He made us. We are created to also be in fellowship. He created us that way. We can't do this me a God thing. Like, we are created to walk with other people. And when I started to realize that that's how I was made, so that is the only thing that's going to fulfill me. That's the only thing that's going to work.
Yeah.
And I really was placed, out of my home to a completely different culture, a completely different place. And I happened to stumble upon this church through social media, like, because of all that. I got really close to leaving. Some things offended me, some things made me uncomfortable, as happens in life, and I almost left, but something deep in me knew that it was too high a cost for me to leave. I kept coming. And since then, like, a lot of things have just been happening. And like, the Lord never takes your free will away from you, so we have to choose Him every day. But I only go on this rabbit trail to come back around and say, like, I had a conversation with my mom a couple of weeks ago, sharing a lot of things that have recently happened in my life with the Lord. And she paused and she was like, "Are you fulfilled?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I truly say that from a place of boasting in the Lord, because it wasn't me. It was truly Jesus just chasing after me, and I finally chose to respond. And it is something that I continue to have to make the choice again and again and again. I don't get it just like, oh, gold star, you're good. But I realized there was truly a minute where I was like, do I even want to get married? And then I was like, okay, yeah, I do. Just kidding. I do. But when that happened, when my relationship shifted to where Jesus is truly became all that matters, that was my prayer for months. Please, like, bring me to a place where you're all that matters. I got to a place where I was worshiping and I literally said, I don't care. I don't care if I ever get married. I don't care if this person I like likes me. I don't care, because I have everything I need, and if it threatens that being taken away from me, I do not want it. And that's very recent and new, and I'm very excited about it, but that would be my encouragement. Like, you don't want to ever be in a place where, like, you need this human being or you won't be okay, because codependency is a thing. Like, I've been very much in codependent friendships too, where it's like, oh, like, we have to call each other constantly to be okay. Like, and she was really coming in the place of the Lord, and her and I had to have a conversation where it was like, we can't talk every day because we can't be dependent on each other about Jesus. We had to have that conversation. Like, it can happen in any friendship, but obviously it can be very common for it to come in the terms, you called it a crutch. Like, a person can become a crutch when it's in the place of Jesus. So if we've never been in that place with Jesus, it's just not going to work the way that He intended. And the way that He intended, I promise you, is so much better than anything else, because it is like intimacy and fellowship. It is something that He created us a certain way, so it's the only way that's going to truly work.
I couldn't have said
That's
it
all I
better
got.
myself.
Praise God. Praise the Lord.
So for me to answer the same question,
Yeah.
I think you need to be able to put your trust in God first before you can be in a relationship, because I feel like if you don't trust God with your life, then you're not gonna trust that like he brought you that relationship.
Yeah.
So if you don't trust him, then you're not gonna even trust the person that you're with. But I like at all like you're always gonna be second guessing it. And so I really do. I think trusting God and being in a relationship, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
If you don't trust him, then you're not gonna trust the relationship. And if you don't trust the relationship, then you're just gonna end up being miserable, and you're gonna be stressed out and worried. And I say this to say, like, I think it is so much better to just let go and let God for that same, even though it's easier said than done, it's a lot harder than what it looks, but I think it's a daily thing of just being like, look, Lord, I want this thing, but just help me today to get through it, right?
Yeah.
To not need it, and to just turn to him in that moment of time. It doesn't make you a bad person if that's what you want. It doesn't make you horrible. It just makes you human. And to give yourself grace in that moment, and to just be like, hey, this is where I'm at, honestly. And so yeah. So to wrap it all up, I would say
one little disclaimer. I just want to say, like, for those, I mean, I don't know who's going to listen to this, but also, like, if you are in a relationship, if you're in a marriage where, like, y'all aren't equally yoked, whatever, or, you know, whatever it may be, like, the Lord can redeem that too. So, or you've had a past, like, just always remembering that. I think the question really boils down to what is your source, no matter where you're at. Kind of like Paul talked about, like, he kind of broke down the different places you can be and what that looks like. No matter where you're at, like, what is your source? I think that's really the starting point. And the Lord will meet you at any place. He will meet you if you're single. He will meet you if you're dating. He will meet you if you're married. Like, so I don't know. Yes.
I agree with that.
Little cutesy reminder.
Little thought bubble. Honestly, I agree with that too. Like, what is your source? Like, it's like, where are you getting your energy from, your like spirit from? Like, where is it coming from? Because if it's in a person, it's gonna be like, what's the word? My mouth is dry. Fleeting. It's gonna be like that, because people are fleeting and people are, nuanced. But if you put your trust and cares on God, that is a sturdy foundation, then you'll be planted and you won't be washed up whenever that rain comes. Like, you won't be floating away, so I agree with what you're saying. So to wrap this all up, just gonna have to do that, but to wrap this all up, I would like to actually be wise here. To wrap this all up, what is some advice you would give to someone who is struggling and being content and happy in their singleness? I can go first.
Yeah,
you can help you. Okay, so for me, the advice I would give to someone is to obviously, I feel like, to trust God and to trust who made you, but on a more like, I don't want to say practical, but on a more day-to-day basis. I think, how am I going to be content? I think it's just being grateful and then having a sense of gratitude for what you do have, and not thinking about what you're lacking, and not always talking about it and always being like, I'm looking for. Like, don't vent, like, at all. Like,
Get to Jesus.
Exactly. it's okay to say, guys, I'm going through this, and you can be open and honest. But I think when it becomes your daily practice is when it's going to poison your mind, and it's gonna make you start to actually believe that lie of I have no one cares about me. No, you have people. It may not be what you want right now, but like my mom always says, appreciate those who, guess what, appreciate you. And right now, it may not be a man or a woman, whoever you like, are looking for, whoever's out there listening. It could just be friends right now, and pour into those people. Do not take those people for granted right now, because this is an answered prayer. Friendship, that's an answered prayer for me too, because I didn't have a whole lot of friends, and this is the first time in my life to where, like, I have so much love overflowing in my life that I have to juggle it. There was once a moment where I was lacking. I felt like I didn't have it, like it wasn't coming to me in this form. And I even remember praying like Lord, send me love in any form that you want to give it to me. At the time, I thought it was going to be about a relationship, because that's what my mind was on. But he sent it, and he sent it in friendship, and that to me is so fruitful and rewarding, to get to have friends. And although a relationship can be too, but it's just not the time for it. And I think saying that and being okay with that, and even if you're not okay with that, but being able to say, I am happy with where I'm at in my life and with myself, then I think it becomes easier day in and day out. And you just have to honestly fake it till you make it at some points. Like, really honestly just be like, yeah, I'm great, but don't lie, but really just be like, I am okay not being in a relationship. So
yeah, my advice would be find the root. Find the root of why you're not content. Because in the times of my life where I've tried to fix my sin or my issue or my frustration with the surface issue, it just doesn't work. Find the root.
Yeah.
Start to understand the lies you're believing, and also be open with your sisters in Christ, or a mentor. Be open with people that you can trust. Be really intentional about the people you talk to. Know that it's someone you can trust and that isn't going to give you bad advice, but be open and real about those lies so that you can replace them with truth. And they're not going to go away right away. So also don't shame yourself for where you're at. I think it's so important to accept where you are, and but find the root. That's the only way change is going to happen, if we really be brutally honest and go, okay, this is what's happening now. Because that's when you can start searching for the truth and finding your way out.
And start digging yourself out that hole that you've been in, and God will lift you up out of it. But it takes work. It's not just I'm gonna pray and one day He's just gonna go.
It takes vulnerability,
like the shirt says,
with yourself, with the Lord, and with the community.
Really, and just honesty. Just being vulnerable, open, and honest about what you're going through. Because, like we said, you can't heal what you don't hide. What you hide, you can't heal what you hide. Say it all the time. But thank you so much for coming on my podcast today and talking with me. If you want to plug anything, it's just the place to do it.
I literally, honestly, have nothing to plug.
Just here,
But come visit NOLA Church and say hi. I'll be there.
But thank you guys so much, and I hope this helped, healed, and inspired someone. And you guys already know to stay blessed and stay beautiful, baby. Okay, so the verse of the day today is, I wish that all were as I am myself, am, but each has his own gift from God, one of a kind and one of another. To the unmarried and the widows I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am. And that is First Corinthians 7:7 in the English Standard Version. And the reason why I feel like I was led to choose this is because we're both single. Hey. And I feel like many of you guys out there might be single, and I feel like in today's world we're not really content with being single. And I know with me, to speak for myself, it's been kind of hard to be content in that. So that's why I felt like I was led to choose that. We're using her phone for the notes. So that's the verse of the day. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the verse of the day?
You know, I love 1 Corinthians 7. One of my favorite things about it is it's Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, one thing he says, I forgot which verse it is, but he says, like, something along the lines of, this is a commendation, not a command. Like, basically, he comes from a stance of being so content in seeing the gift of his singleness, like, for what it is, that he is literally like, this is not, you don't have to be single, but because of what I've experienced, I encourage you to be single. Like, it's coming from, like, the overflow of his contentness. So, shout out to 1 Corinthians 7. I love that whole section, and I encourage y'all to read it. But yeah, just made me think of that.
Okay, well, I'm glad. So, after the verse today, we're going to get into our takes on singleness, and I'm going to ask Natalie a few questions, and I'm going to answer them if I can as well. So, stay tuned for the rest of the video. Okay, I'm just gonna start it. We're just gonna have it going, but whenever we start is when we start.
Yeah.
This is just for like.
I'll just set up
bloopers. Really? This is a crop top. I bought it, but it's a crop top, but like.
I didn't even notice. I was like,
normally I wear longer shirts.
I have a shirt that's cropped, but it's a child extra large, so it's literally a kid's shirt, and it fits me like it's cropped. And then this is a like double XL.
Oh, I like it though.
Thanks. I like the way it fits.
Thrifty. Okay, you gonna start?
Yeah.
Okay, let me cause I didn't do the
Let me not have my knee.
Okay. Can I have your phone so I can look at the questions? So I can go through it? No. If you see me always playing with my hair, that's what I do. And I look in the view, and I look at myself. That's why I love having this iPad, because I can just look at myself.
Oh my gosh. I love playing with my hair. You did not send it to my work email?
I sent it to your email.
I got it.
Gracias.
Hi, welcome to aMaYa's.
I'm
Amaya. This is Natalie.
You want to do this by yourself? No. I'm like, she could just, we're going to switch, we're just going to switch. And
We basically are twins. I don't know what you're talking about.
Basically. Can't you see the resemblance? Let me go to this, how do you search on here? Oh, okay, that's what it is. Voice. You gotta, voice.
I was about to make a joke, but I think it
Nah, I really want to joke. We could cut it out.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, what's that? Just there's no Okay. So this is how I like to do it. I do the intro first.
Yeah.
And then
Don't include this because I've scratched my armpit.
I'm not gonna include it.
Probably.
So I film so I do the intro first.
Uh-huh.
Then I stop recording, and then we get into it. So let me introduce you first, so you don't stand right over there and sit down out of frame. And then I'm like, welcome, Natalie.
Okay.
And you'll walk in and be like, hey. Or like, and I'll transition into where we're both sitting down. That's fine. Okay, great. That's great. Okay. It's not going to be verbatim. Oh my gosh, it's weird having people watch.